All right, I'm Tolu, he's Dan. It's Sports Week. We'll start our Premier League preview this week with a rather interesting game. High-flying Brentford, who could have beaten Arsenal last time out. Arsenal got really lucky in that one. They take on Brighton this time around. Brighton, not the best of seasons. There's a lot of talk around the manager at Brighton, but the key thing is this Brentford team lost their top scorers in Brandon Bremer and Johan Vissa in the close season. They hired a man who'd never managed professionally, was always an assistant manager, gave him a job in the top league. And at the start of the season, everyone potentially looked at them as potential relegation candidates. What has happened at Brentford? And how has this season been this good?
Well, that's the big question, really, isn't it? What has happened to this Brentford team? I was one of those many people that said, "Do you know what? With the appointment they've made and the players they've lost, I can't see this team not being in the bottom three. It just all looked like a really bad season for Brentford, but they've made a lot of people, me included, look rather silly. I think Kevin Schade has been a real key player this season. The same with Igor Thiago, the Brazilian forward, who's recently signed a new contract as reward for such a good campaign so far. And they've just been the kind of Brentford that they were under Thomas Frank. Nothing has really changed. It's not kind of revolution, it's just evolution under Keith Andrews. Him obviously being the set piece coach last season, so he knows the bulk of the squad anyway. It's kind of just carrying on doing what they have been doing, which has kept them in the Premier League since their promotion. So it just feels like the natural progression of the club, but are now mixing it with the clubs that are hoping to get into Europe. And if this form continues, 7 points out of 9, unbeaten in the last 3, then the Europa League or the Europa Conference League is going to be there for Keith Andrews' men. And that is a big, I guess, parallel to what Brighton are achieving at the moment, or not achieving, because really, if you looked at those two teams at the start of the season, you'd have probably said Brighton would be in Brentford's position and vice versa. And as you say, Brighton really struggling at the moment. No win in 6, one win in 13, and the talk of the manager and the way Brighton recruit players is a bit of friction, and it seems to be an ongoing issue. Brighton, renowned for their data-driven approach to recruitment, but maybe that approach is not working at the moment, and they're not quite safe from relegation just yet. So a very interesting game at the weekend.
For Brighton, though, it looks inconceivable. I don't think since the young German manager was hired, I don't think he's been as under as immense of pressure as he is now. What do you think has gone wrong? They still seem to have the same players, but it just seems not to be working. Danny Welbeck the goal seems to have dried up for him a bit. Toma hasn't particularly hit the heights. He's played in bursts a bit this season. They went and got Pascal Gross back in the January window. It still doesn't seem like it's working. They still got decent players, but it just feels like there's a disconnect somewhere in this Brighton team.
Yeah, I think when you look at how they've performed in terms of results, they've drawn 10 of their 26 matches, which is the joint most amount of draws this season with Bournemouth. So to me, that says they are now a team which is solid rather than spectacular. So maybe goals is the issue. You touch on Danny Welbeck at the start of the campaign. Some people saying he should be going to the World Cup. That won't happen now due to his drop in form. But the lack of goals that have been the issue for Brighton have sort of stumbled from Welbeck not scoring. Matoma's really taken a big dip in form. So it's not the squad is a bad squad. It's just not playing to the highlights or the levels it could be capable of at the start of the campaign. And I think that's also a fair comparison of manager Fabian Herzler in the sense that he's been very good in what he's done in the year and a half at Brighton already, but it's a real rocky patch. And were it not for the points that Brighton collected in the first half of the season, they're likely to be even worse now. So as I say, they're not safe yet. So I think it would be a big surprise if they did go down, but I don't think they can relax at the moment either.
All right, so let's put our betting caps on. As this one is concerned, how do you think this one goes?
Unfortunately, I think it's more misery for Brighton. I think the value of Brentford being around evens for a home win, I think with the way the two teams are playing at the moment and Brentford's good record at home, I think it's be silly not to back Brentford in this one. I think keep it simple, home win, 3 points, and Brentford's European charge continues.
All right, very straightforward. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thanks, Tolu.